Hello and welcome. Today is Thursday, the 20th of July, 2017. Welcome. My name is Derek. Let's go over the Bitcoin charts, maybe a few others as well. And interesting to say the least as far as the market with a gain of 22% in one day. How often can you say that about something like the stock market, the Dow Jones, for example? And the closest I've ever seen it do was back in 2008, and this was over 3 consecutive days, as it went from 8,000 to 9,800, 1,800 basis points on 8. That worked out to a little over 20%, and this occurred in a situation after it got its ass kicked, and it only made a move to the 18 average of lows. But with the Bitcoin chart, this 20% move is escaping the 18 average band, which it only consolidated in such for 2 days. The lows seen only a few of them ago, 4 or so, to 18 and change. Levels not seen since this really low period back in early June, as well back in this rising period in May. And this move right now is at levels not seen since the upper resistance and the second best resistance of such, going back to the June levels. There's only one band after this because there's this mark where it's pretty much testing. There's this mark, and the only other one is in here. Today, this level of resistance got destroyed. So to say that the buyers are in control, that would most certainly be that of an understatement. When I talk about the failed move, fast move, this is what Brian Shannon from Alpha Trends, who has been doing these videos for quite some time now, he says that quite often, or he actually taught me that. Many things he's said I've also been stating. And when you have this situation, this pattern is so frequent. Key level, yes, this was big. This area in here was big. So we see it breaking down from such. There was only a little bit of support to hold it if it was going to go down a bit more, and it went down further. But when the regaining of this move happens so fast, that's telling you something alarming, if you will. And when you see this movement like in here, as I was stating, it's either the failed move, fast move. Well, this is what the fast move looks like. And then, of course, if it was resisting this area, if you have a move of a break leg lower of a key level, you have your first resistance and move lower. Yeah, but that's not the play. It's obvious, of course, it's failed move, fast move, and let's shorten it out because that's really what you need to do when you see this situation, when you're in the either or situation. Unless you can play some wild option bets on both sides of the fence, which is like calls and puts in the stock market game, what can you do to put that to your advantage? And well, within shorting the time frames out, which we're going to do on the 4-hour, and we follow it from the breakdown point, we can see this is your normal every day after a big fall. You're expecting to have a move of a nature like this. But anyone who sold short, anyone who thought this was only going to be a correction, well, they were wrong, obviously. But you had this interesting move higher. See, this was a normal move, but this really wasn't. So that's why when price action got in here, it was really telling you, wow, this thing is in very interesting territory. And after it found support for the first time at this band, we can follow the market higher, matching these previous highs. And then a decent correction. And that'll be a little bit of scare for some people. And even if the case would have been finding a higher low here, that would have been fine as well. But the buyers obviously took control with only one small correctionary price move here and an okay one only. And as it was leaving this area, just kept going and going and going towards the upside. So indications breaking past this resistance area here were very strong, and not the biggest of surprises that something like this is to occur. Although I'm a little shocked, to say the least. For myself, I've been thinking, man, I wish I'd be buying more silver, but I don't want to be buying silver with Bitcoin prices at this level, considering that's what I'm going to be buying with. And I'm thinking to myself, look, I'm only going to buy a small amount, so we'll buy close to when the price becomes good. And then when it's much better, then I'll buy some more. So I end up buying today roughly in this area here, 2,600 and change, as I was either going to buy here. That's what the plan was anyway. So it's either here or around 2,900, and for about 10% more, I'll buy there. And then my next one will be the more major upside target. And what I like to do is find an uptrend to a down move. So this market went from 2980 down to 1830. So that will be the calculation I'll be using for Fibonacci upside. Let's bring that calculation up. And that would bring us a number in at 4,028. But let's make this time frame a longer one to the weekly one and see what this will be telling us. And this is interesting to say the least, because within such, I see how after a nice move to the 18 average of lows has had a very large candle to the upside, which is thus retesting previous high. We have an upside target of 4,000, but what happens if I take the number in here and calculate it down here? Because what I look for within Fibonacci upside is an uptrend that has a price correction, which of course was the case from point A to point B, and then again from, well, we'll say point C to point D, although this one happened first. But let's bring the calculations for this one up. And well, it takes us to a little over 4,000 as well. So both the intermediate term and the long term state a target of 4,000. Other than the calculation, which is high divided by low to the root, or the exponent of 1.618, multiply the low. What is worth noting within this is these numbers, especially within the cryptos, have been doing a lot of piercing extras. So if it's going to go up to a level, like in this case, a hair north of 4,000, you would expect that to be even more north than that if it's going to go to a key point. Furthermore, oftentimes these numbers can indicate where key congestion levels would result towards. And there's not too many great cases of it. Well, yes, this is a high, and this is the congestion level, at this case at 440. That would be one example. So a situation may occur where it might go to 5,000. Then for maybe a couple months or 3 months or some sort of decent time frame, it'll congest in the 4,100 area, and you'll be like, oh my, 41's a key number. And it's interesting how these calculators bring it up. But when we're looking at the size of the move, this is occurring when you see it at the start of a push. These are big things. Now, this isn't the greatest charts for logarithmic style, but I don't know where else you're going to find a move of this magnitude. Like, well, let's see. Well, how about the 400? That goes from 440 to about 540. That's 100. So that's 40, 80. That's about 25%. So, wow, yeah, this is one of the ones where you're seeing like a big green candle here. You had 3 following ones large. This is coming off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 consecutive ups in a row. and even 10 of 11 before then, which was followed by 1 down, 3 side, and then what looks to be the failed breakdown. So the buyers are in obvious full control of the market. The momentum indication, well, just because I pointed out 4,000, I even want to state that 5,000 is more psychological, and they usually, like I state, pierce some higher. If a level that's not supposed to be resistance is not, oh baby, hog wild comes into play. And you don't expect, oh, it's going to go up to 6,000 or 62, most likely not. No, and it might take time, probably not much to get there, but you're talking about the fast move to the next level, probably closer to 7,000, 8,000. And that's, again, on the if scenario that the 4,000 to 5,000 range, and that's really the rectangular area, I think will be the best place time for more heavier bets to sell Bitcoin for Tether, to start using it more as money, things of that nature, because that's when it will be at great price points and more favored to go down decently rather than go up decently at that point. But for now, it's in the early stages of the breakout phase. Let's quickly look at some other markets. Ethereum priced in Bitcoin, and I mentioned within such that it's stated, hey, I'm ready to revert the trend over, but it's not a good sign of a down day like this, and then to follow through breaking below what's a declining 18 average of lows like this. Well, short term, there's a couple time hit support in here, but failing in that area, I'd be looking closer about the 55 handle as possible support. Litecoin is the furthest it has been from the 18 average of lows since back in here, and it's even the first time it's even really went below it, for that matter, since it started to have this rally, which means time to be cautious. There's definitely some of that selling going on. Key thing is now this major level of support. Every time you break a key point and you've had a decent move, which is the case, and then any further rallies or next rallies, rather, you expect to have a form of resistance. And like stated in the Bitcoin chart, whenever you see the situation where you break a key point, if it gets back here relatively quickly and then regains back into its previous trading area, then you're on high alert for the failed move, fast move, as of course shown on the Bitcoin. But that's on the if case scenario. Approaching now is its next key level of support, which was this one in here. You can always be talking about head and shoulders pattern. That could also happen if it rallies from this point, goes up to here. But definitely into cautionary signs at this point. Dash has one of those cattail kind of things. I'm going to talk a little bit about trading style after this, but it's got like a cattail formation pattern. And a lot of these down movements, Bitcoin's having over a 20% day. So a lot of these charts are going to be a victim of such. And if Bitcoin's going to start a very good bull market rally, is it going to be the leading indicator, meaning altcoins will follow suit later? Well, time will tell within such, but for now, it's in the area where it's got lots of support. Right in here is big, a little north of the 60 handle support here, resistance there, but the sideways action remains. Now, I was asked, I think earlier, I think this morning or last night, if what other indicators I use, because it seems all I really did have is this front-weighted 18 average of highs and lows, as well as Fibonacci, and yeah, that pretty much would be it. I don't need any oscillators or magnifiers, although that's not probably an indicator. Maybe it is, but there's so many out there. I really don't need it, and I don't want to draw 50 lines on it, and it's just going to be so confusing. I've heard the code as a kid, KISS, K-I-S-S, keep it simple, stupid, as they would state. And I never liked hearing that before, because I've always you know what, if you do it more advanced, you're going to do better or do more. But I do think that's how I like to keep it. Keep it simple, but to a very advanced level. So that's how I try to do things within it. But also, I'm looking for situations, patterns, and like the pattern of like the failed move, fast move, how a market reacts within this, how it tells the story of the market. And so price that pace. So it's what the candles are doing on an individual basis. Stuff like, okay, after this sideways consolidation, it had this leg higher, and it's now consolidating basically one floor like it is here. And technical analysis states that, well, if a market is in a correctionary phase, like on the long term, like I see from the start of it, starting in 2017 all the way to these highs, it's in that consolidation period, and oftentimes these patterns do break out within the trend, and in this case that's the upside. So a lot of it's just the waiting period. I mean, I would have figured that there's a decent chance it should already be here by now when I was getting into it the first time a while back, that is. But yeah, for what it's worth, I like to keep it relatively simple. How does the story play out within the 18 average? How does it play within price action? I don't need any Bollinger Bands. And I used to have upper and lower bands, but it's really easy to tell when markets are in overextended and underextended conditions. And let's move on. I'll make this a 20-minute video. And within the ETC chart, which is having some decent sized red days, again with a Bitcoin 20% update, shows that that's a big victim for many of them. But it's at this key support area of previous resistance for yet another test. And when you have the situation of a move like this, where it goes up so fast and so aggressive like it did, and it immediately sells off, then that gives me the warnings of failed breakout that could result in a fast move to the downside. Keyword again is could, but if you see some decent size movements in the low 50s and definitely barely 49 area, and then there definitely could be continuation movement towards the downside. As far as traditional Fibonacci is concerned, taking it from this low to the high, we can bring the calculation for 3964. It says 61.8. That actually represents a 38.2% down move. 76.4 coming in at 55. That's where it is right now. So the first correctionary move you would expect came in, and because it's been a relative area or level and Fibonacci has been inaccurate as it has, that if it breaks down, don't be surprised if the move comes down to most likely pierces below the 3964 handle, somewhere in this ballpark. Continuation on the downside within Ripple, as it is leaving this 18 average. Might get a little bit of support here, but I'm still not buying until it makes a move down to the area for which it came from, which is 25 to 3,000, closer to that area there. ZEC, after finding support pretty much where it is now, it had this nice little move into this 18 average, but what do we see now? It's leaving the band. I don't like the chances it's going to hold too well. Maybe it will, but we can again calculate Fibonacci. We have a 17 number, and I'm just going to do this quickly just by looking at the numbers here. That's about 20 and 21.8, I would guess. So 21.8. So that leaves us in right now the 775 area. Well, that's where it's playing in at right now. So 478 would be the number. Roughly in around here. If there's going to be any decent moves or a match of the previous two-time hit low, I would expect to be the next decent support level. And now that we're around the 20-minute mark, and it's time to end this video. So I hope you found it helpful. Of course, anything done from this is done at your own risk, own reward. Right now, Bitcoin is in control of the crypto markets. And thank you for tuning in, and have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.